The last time that I was here in Atlanta, we had that big that ice storm, and it snowed, and Atlanta shut its schools down and everything. And we don't know. It's much different than the north. But anyway, I got on an airplane that afternoon and went to Australia, and I'm back. And I'm going to take you on a little trip to begin with, and then we're going to come back home. But it was a 22-hour flight, and this is what it's like, all business class. In big reclining seats we lie, bundled in blankets like a flying morgue. 5 by 5, LA to Melbourne. In the indigo glow of our individual entertainment screens, we sleep exhausted, flip through 50 multilingual channels. Please no more hot roasted nuts, smoked salmon, or chef-endorsed entrees with matching wines. The port, the aged cheese, and the duty-free did us in. Our bodies are comfy with special booties issued from our little ditty kits. We hurtle supine across the Pacific, unconscious, crossing the international date line, losing a day of our lives. Perhaps it fell into some volcanic fold between the atolls and the tectonic plates, into a deep sea crevice in the moonlit coral sea below. And what of our final journey, when we pass through the glass darkly, losing all time? Can we honestly fill out the customs form declaring our heart weighs less than a feather? Will we be traveling in business class together? I guess what I forgot to say before the poem is that the ancient Egyptians believed that on the final judgment day they would weigh your heart on a scale and see how big your ego was. And if it weighed more than a feather, there was a big crocodile there that took you away. 2 years ago when I arrived in Australia, it was Australia Day, and they celebrated the reunion. There was a reunion because the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth, the two big ocean liners, were in port. And the last time that had happened was in the Second World War. And just a note, you should know that Sydney rocks are the local oysters. This one's called Big Boats. Sydney rocks slide down nice with local brew. Across the bay from a huge steel backdrop of red, black, and white liner, we dine at the oyster bar on Circular Quay. The whole city celebrates the reunion of the two great queens who met up in this harbor during the Second World War to ferry Aussie troops to battle. These floating palaces travel oceans like elegant ideas. Mary arrived at sunrise, Elizabeth at sunset, escorted by a sprawl of boats and yachts and a swarm of helicopters. A red fireboat drum-majored the procession, arcing spray in 3 directions. An old man on the quay's bench sits through the hubbub, dapper, handsome dressed in his Harris tweed and tan-polished shoes. He sports a bow tie, and with his buddy leaning on a cane, they seem a pair escaped from the veterans' home. He's annoyed by the Japanese girls sharing his bench. The girls photograph themselves and the man and capture him as well, showing him in his photographs. They giggle, covering their mouths in that odd way. He pretends not to notice. I introduce myself, and he says he remembers that day in 1939 when the 2 ships were here before. In fact, right over there, he embarked for Burma with a backpack and a rifle slung over his shoulder, kissing his girl goodbye. I survived hell building that damn bridge over the quay for those Japs, and I never saw that girl again. That's why he's here today, quietly sunning his Australian spirit, big as the outback, big as any big boat. This is from a trip to Kyoto called Four Sketches of Japan. And it just reminds me of Blake's poem where he says that you can capture the world in a flower and eternity in an hour. That's what some of these temples do, if you've ever been there. Okay, this is one. The scent of opening apricot, a bonus of pink sprays, intoxicate the morning chill. We sit on woven mats in a tea house drinking the warm and laboriously prepared brew, letting our souls steep over the serene temple toured. We loathe to board our bus in formation with the others in the parking lot beyond this perfection. Many of the Shinto shrines are around remarkable natural objects. This is two. It was the centuried cedar that impressed me most, girded in a woven grass knot like a sumo wrestler. Beneath it, a young couple presented their new baby for blessing and by a white-robed priest. The occasion is made more auspicious by grandparents photographing every detail. Here, two religions coexist. Shinto shrines like this one with bright orange gates called tori are for life's events, and the Buddhist temples are more sober, where they bury the dead. This is 3. We are amazed by the great Buddha's long earlobes at Nara. But there's no place to meditate, as the enlightened one advised. Instead, guides with little flags move tourists in brigades like samurai armies to battle. Outside, sacred deers con us out of biscuits. Polite girls in kimonos tell us our fortune and sell us charms for passing our next exam. This is 4. Moss-leavened paths to the Royan temple, calm by their deep greenness. Here, unfathomable rocks float in a raked pebble ocean. It may represent the universe or a collusion of creator monks, sitting on cedar, smoothed by 4 centuries of contemplation. I hold your hand and realize when the burgeoning cherry bough hanging over the wall buds, our world will be complete. I was on a trip with my current wife thinking about asking her to marry me. Okay, if you take those Shinto gates, we'll come back to the U.S. now, and there's sort of this odd orange color, and there's one of these in the Brooklyn Botanical Garden, and I often wondered what that color was. And last year I lived in a place called the Center for the Study of World Religions, and I had all these Shinto experts, and they researched the internet and all these stuff, and they couldn't figure out why these gates are orange. What's the reason? I have a partner, another investment banker in Japan, and he said it's very simple. That was the color for the family that gave some of the major Shinto temples. That was the color of their symbol, which was sort of a chrysanthemum, but it was an orange color. And so that's from then on, all these gates are orange. And this is figures in this next poem called In the Reflection Pool. And it's for my mother-in-law who passed away a couple years ago, Audrey Rosamond. Prize water lilies called Crimson Lady, Pearl Mother, and Goddess of White bedazzle us as a starburst of color over the water's still surface. Beneath them, a school of carp, radiant orange, like the park's Shinto gate, feather on gossamer fin. These These bright water druids hide under the green floating leaves and gather around the stems from murky depths. They scatter at our shadow, as we've scattered from Audrey's hospital bedside when she fusses and tires into our grief and confusion. And like those fish who know only water, we cannot see just above us or behold a soul. Holiday party. Go-go dancers in Santa bikinis grind around chrome poles stationed about the mansion's grounds. Above the crush of crowd, and they bend and blend with the hubbub at my old classmate's Palm Beach bash. A little stoned, he can't remember me at first, but soon recalls our arranging our class trips, seeing us off before dawn, earning his way through Harvard the hard way. Well, tonight he's arrived and adopted the town to celebrate his new blonde friend who welcomes us at her palazzo by the sea. Overwhelmed with traffic, the police and valets scampering to empty a lineup of Rolls and Jags, spilling legions of open-shirted and sequin-clad guests. They filter through the tables of welcoming booze and squadrons of servants with canapes on silver trays. The cigar clique puffs disbelief in the billiard parlor. What does this guy do? Their well-cleavaged and bejeweled ladies dip strawberries into chocolate fountains flowing there. They grin with surgically sculptured smiles, breathless that the buzz for this party was over the top. It's still early in the evening, but the hullabaloo spills in a conga line, barefoot on the beach, crooning with the band. It's the start of another great season. This is called Space Shot. There, across the darkness of Florida's Palmetto scrub, poised to launch the Discovery stars in the bright xenon floodlights, it nurses an orange tank twice its size of frothing gases. Its boosters, like giant Roman candles, stand at the ready to escort the shuttle into orbit. Jets roar through clouds covering to vouchsafe a stubborn ceiling. Nervous throngs watch from the beach and stands for the blast that will turn night into day. Was this excitement in the crowds at Verona Harbor in 1492, waiting for 3 small ships to catch the tide and favorable winds and disappear over the horizon? Our spotlighted technology idle smokes eerily and silent aboard 7 orange-suited astronauts strapped in and eager to reman the International Space Station. As the window of opportunity narrows, no prayers are said, no sensors swung. Technicians and scientists ritually check 2 million systems that must sync during the 10-hour countdown they control. A-OK in Houston, downrange, clear, and in the console firing room at the Cape, the screens grow clean, a go, but the clouds have their arms crossed. The windows passed, stand down. Eventually left a couple of days later, but anyway. It's interesting to think of the contrast between the great times of discovery. What must have been going on. Okay, I'm going to come down to earth a little bit. Supposedly, speaking of the Buddha in his last, supposedly his last sermon, he just held up a flower. So my last poem, I'm just holding up a flower here to you. It's called Sunflowers. The sun god's seedy-eyed children strain at their stalks daily to follow his light, east to west in unison. Late summer days, their great heads droop, tired and weighty with maturity. tall in neat rows behind the house with peeling blue paint, their yellow bonnets out of place in an unkept yard of scattered toys and auto parts, trash, and a rusty red chevy carcass with a spoiler. There's an old tractor and snowplow for sale down at the street next to the family's honor vegetable stand, where they sell those gay, seedy-eyed, and yellow-bonneted heads they chop off to make ends meet. Thanks.